Welcome to the first GFFL Fantasy Football Podcast YouTube thingamajig. I don't know. So, being the commissioner's getting old and gray, it's easier for me just to come online here and do the old weekly update, if you will, for the old GFFL 17. We're slowly creeping into modern times. We're no longer part of the Amish League. So looking at the stats, John Jones and Dennis Rickman are tied for first in the North. Greg is 1-1, sitting at third. Tony and Chris are at the Sellers 0-2, but looking to get right with the world come next week. In the South, probably the toughest division of them all, Jeff Fish is 2-0 and leading the league. I know for a fact, Jeff, that Princess helps you pick your picks in between mopping duties. Wade Whitaker, Brad Graham, and the one nut Freedom Rocker, yours truly, is tied for the second spot. And Kurz, the one PhD in this bunch, is sitting in the fifth spot. But trust me, Kurz will not sit there for long. Major activity on the waiver wire this week. If we look going back to about 3 days ago, Chris cut Mike Evans from Tampa Bay and picked up Matt Asadi, running back for Minnesota. Probably a good call considering Peterson is now under double secret probation for beating his kid with a switch, I guess. Chris then cut Nick Folk and picked up Bobby Rainey from Tampa Bay, which I think is a solid pickup for Chris. Pretty impressive what Bobby Rainey did last week, and who knows what he can do as long as Doug Martin's out. Jeff cut Ahmad Bradshaw, picked up Niles Davis from the Kansas City Chiefs, and then turned around and cut Alex Smith and picked Ahmad Bradshaw back up. Based on what Bradshaw did on Sunday night or Monday night, it's pretty impressive what he did. It'll be tough to not play him, keep him in your lineup every week. And then yours truly, the one nut Freedom Rocker, went out and cut Ryan Matthews because he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. And I went out and picked up the longtime fantasy football legend Antonio Gates. I think that'll be a slick pick for me. However, I do have some players on the old trading block. If you feel interested, it is on the Flickr website for you to take a look at. So let's look at some of the key action that's coming up this week. Looking at the scores ahead, me and Greg will be in a fight. Greg is never a slouch when it comes to fantasy. Right now, the projection on the Flea Flicker website is 79-72 in my favor with the current lineups. With a game tomorrow night, we'll see who's going to make their picks early. Chris and Brad, which is always a great fight. Chris will look to get his first W of the season against his old nemesis, Brad. I like Brad in that game, but you never know with Chris. He seems to pull something out of his arse every now and then. Fish and Jonesy battle the undefeateds. The O must go, in the words of Michael Buffer. I like Jonesy there to pull that win off. I think most likely somebody's about due for an off week, even though it's week 3 of the NFL season. Tony and Kurz go at it, battle of 0-2s. Another O must go, but on the winning side. They're projecting Tony to win that one 93-75. I think that's a good pick. However, you never know with Brady. He's about due to blow up for a 30-point game. That'll be a good one. And then we have Wade versus Dennis. Wade 1-1 versus Dennis 2-0. It's got Rickman at 86. Wade's favored 186 by a 14-point mark. The key players in this one, of course, are going to be the quarterbacks, Rodgers and Luck. Both of them are putting up great numbers to start the season, so we'll see. Aaron plays Detroit at Detroit, which is a dome stadium, which plays to his advantage. Andrew is in Jacksonville. Both of those are a noon Sunday start. I think right there will be the telltale of the tape to see how that game plays out for both players. A couple of things Rickman's going to have to worry about is Decker. Decker's hurt. I think he is out he's doubtful with a hamstring, so maybe some moves to make there. The player to look out for on Chris's team is going to be if he keeps Rashad Jennings in the game or if he decides to go with
put McFadden in or Toby Gerhart, but Toby Gerhart may be out as well. Other news in football this week. No trades have occurred, but there is a lot of rumors. Some proposals have been made and denied. Yes, I know the one I made to the commissioner was a crappy one, but I was just trying to get things started. So, other key pieces of matchups this week. We're looking at the Thursday night game has Atlanta playing Tampa Bay. A couple people you're going to probably start here is Matt Ryan. I got Roddy White. Don't know if I'm going to start him. I might, but we'll see. That'll be a great game to watch to start the week. I think you got two tough teams there. Atlanta's much improved, and Tampa Bay is that close to being a winning franchise again. So we'll see what happens there. Other key spots to look at. Oops, wrong button. Other key spots to look at this week with the games. Excuse me, it's my first time. Give me a break. You got Arizona at San Francisco. Depending on who's the starting quarterback there, could be in Arizona. Could determine a lot of wide receiver picks. I got lucky last week with Fitzgerald. I have to admit. Was on the road much of Sunday, and I had to have my wife do my lineup. I was driving. She was on her iPhone pulling up the team, and I told her to pull out Larry Fitzgerald and put in Deshaun Jackson. And she made the move for me, and I thought it was done. And as I'm throughout the day checking my phone, I realized that Deshaun Jackson and he went out shortly after the other cripple on that team, RG3, went out. I thought, great. I said, well, Tony's going to win this week. Well, luckily enough, the wife didn't hit set lineup, which was my fault because I didn't tell her to do it. So, worked out good for me that I didn't end up starting Larry Fitzgerald. So, good plays there. A couple of key matchups this week. The one I really like to see is the rematch of the Super Bowl, Denver at Seattle. A couple things there. I don't know if I'd play Peyton Manning. It'd be tough to start Peyton Manning this week against that Denver defense, particularly against that Seattle defense, particularly what they did with Aaron Rodgers. But who knows? It's still any man's game because we saw what Philip Rivers did last week to the Seattle defense. He carved it up like a Thanksgiving turkey. So, other plays to look at this week. I would say probably the one matchup this week in fantasy I want to see is Chris and Brad. If that one could get played out live on TV, I'd love it just to watch the pain and agony of those two. Right now, they both have Cutler facing Stafford at the quarterback position. Obviously, that one goes to Brad. I'll take Stafford all day there. Chris is going to start Doug Martin. I think that's a gutsy call. We'll see how many carries he gets coming off the injured reserve. Arian Foster, that's a tough call there. To me, that's a toss-up there. I don't think, I'd say they're even. The big difference here is that Matt Asate, starting for Adrian Peterson, the quote-unquote bad disciplinarian in the family, is up against Matt Forte on Brad's team. I think Forte is going to win that game. I think he's going to run all over the Jets. Kind of what that's how you control that team. You pound the ball on them and keep their defense on the field, and they get tired over time. Wide receiver matchup: you got Macklin, Julius Jones, and Rob Gronkowski. Right now. Either way you go there, I think Chris may make a move there and bring in a couple other guys. Pierre Garçon may be a possible start with the quarterback change there, which is long overdue. You never know. For Brad, he's got Calvin Johnson, an easy start against Green Bay secondary. They're weak and terrible. Michael Crabtree, you may look for Brad to make a move here and put in Wes Welker over Crabtree. Crabtree's not what he used to be. And he's not what he's been made up to be, I should say. Defense and kickers, who cares? Those are a crapshoot in most cases, but I'll certainly take the Seahawks over the Texans. Defense. And then kicker-wise, you got Hauschka versus Matt Bryant. I'll take Bryant on Thursday night, I think. All in all, I think Brad's
lined up to win this week. Depending on what Chris may make some moves late on Sunday morning to maybe propel him into the W there, but we shall see. My matchup with Greg, the other duo, the Isaacs brothers, who Tony gave me a great fight over the week, and he deserved to win that game more than anything. Right now, I got Nick Foles at quarterback. I'm going up against Andy Dalton. Dalton is starting to be a pretty good fantasy player, surprisingly, considering he plays for the Bengals, but really starting to develop into a pretty good player. We'll see what. I'll take Foles because he's putting up between 20 and he's giving me between 17 and 20 points each week, and I can't complain there. Running backs, I got Moneyball, Eddie Lacy. I'm going to stick with those two. They're both. Eddie Lacy's not lived up to expectations, but against Detroit, I think he's going to get some garbage yards and maybe a TD. Stephen Ridley, and Lamar Miller's who Greg's got. Lamar Miller, I believe, is probably a good pick there, but he does have a couple guys on his bench, Jamal Hill and Justin Forsett and Reggie Bush. Reggie Bush may be a good play this week against Green Bay. A lot of that game will probably be a high score. I imagine like a 35-38 type final. So he may look good there. Receivers for Greg, he's got Demaryius Thomas, solid. Emmanuel Sanders, solid. And looks like he's got A.J. Green, but they're saying A.J. Green's doubtful with a toe injury, so he may make a move there. I would even consider swapping out one of my Denver receivers for somebody else just because it's Seattle's defense and they're tough. But then again, if what happens against San Diego happens here, then there's something wrong. Kickers, either or. For me, Fitzgerald, I'm wavering if I'm going to start Roddy. I don't know if I'm going to start Fitzgerald and Roddy White. One of those two may get put down. I'm thinking it's time to put Mike Wallace in the league, get him started. Wallace has had 2 great weeks. I've had him on the bench over some players I thought would do better, but he's putting up the numbers, and that time at 60 minutes really did him good too. Jimmy Graham, I draft him almost every year in honor of the commissioner. It's his long lost bastard child or something. Great talent, very good ball player, and he blew up last week for me. So kickers and defense, Novak and the Panthers, I think that'll be fine. Greg Zerline versus the Patriots. You never know what will happen there. We'll see, but it could be interesting to see. Let's see. We'll go to Fishy and Jonesy. Probably this one here, Manning versus Matt Ryan. That one right there, I'll slightly edge Jonesy with Manning, but it is Seattle. I like Matt Ryan on Thursday night against Tampa Bay. Running backs, Bernard Pierce and Giovanni Bernard. Pierce going against the Browns D. Giovanni Bernard against Tennessee. Not bad, but it could be an interesting fight at the end. I think with Tennessee and Cincinnati, I think Giovanni's probably a great start this week. Bernard Pierce, maybe. If he has some other options, you might want to look at that, but I think Pierce is probably the way to go for Jonesy. Jamal Charles and Alfred Morris. Jamal Charles has been kind of hit and miss. I mean, he's injury prone right now. He's questionable, and it's kind of tough. But Alfred Morris is a solid pick too. But Jeff does have Bradshaw and Niles Davis on the bench, and also Bishop Sankey or Sanka, the coffee that my grandmother drinks. So I mean, either or there. Wide receivers right now: Vincent Jackson, Brandon Marshall, Antoine Brown. All solid picks for Rish this week. I don't think I would swap anybody out. Hakeem Nicks has not lived up to what he's expected to be. Sanu had a great week for Cincinnati last week. Can he duplicate it this week against Tennessee? We'll see. For Jonesy, Andre Johnson had a great week for Texas. Not bad, but he still put up, I think, between 9 and 10 fantasy points. So he puts double-digit points up. You can't beat that. Marcus Colston. It's when Jimmy Graham's getting a lot of looks, it's tough to want to play him all the time, but you got to here. And then Demaryius Thomas for Denver. I think it's another solid pick there, too, against Seattle. We'll see. Vinatieri at kicker, Broncos defense.
I would get away from the Broncos D myself. I'd go find something else off the waiver wire and play them. 49ers D for Jeff, that speaks for itself. That team can put up some stellar points each week. So I think, right now I definitely favor the defense on that game. 49ers D for Rish. So elsewhere in the league, we got who are we missing here? Elsewhere in the league, Wade and Dennis we've already discussed. Tony and Chad. Basically, Tom Brady versus Drew Brees. Tony's got Brady, Brees at quarterback. Don't expect Drew Brees to have an off week this week. That team is 0-2, and they won't be. I don't expect them to be 0-3 by the end of the week. I expect them to absolutely blow up Minnesota, and it's their home opener, I believe, so it's going to be a big one. Marshawn Lynch, running back for Tony and Zach Stacy. He's got a couple other options, Maurice Jones-Drew and Shane Vereen, but I think his two best plays are on the board right there, Lynch and Stacy. Le'Veon Bell and Andre Ellington. I believe Andre Ellington may be in some trouble. I don't know. I heard some stuff that they're investigating some stuff on him. He could be joining the other fellas in the prison cell. Just saying. A couple other options. If we look at the wide receivers, Julian Edelman, Dez Bryant, Brandon Cooks. That's not a bad setup, but there's a couple other guys. Victor Cruz for the Giants may not be a bad call to plug in there for Cooks. We'll see what Tony does. He's always good about pulling something off at the last minute. And for Chad, his receivers are Reggie Wayne, Keenan Allen, and Vernon Davis. Keenan Allen was great for me last year. I expect Keenan Allen to have another big game this week. Vernon Davis has not lived up to the expectations we normally expect from Vernon Davis, so we'll see what happens there. Sammy Watkins may play this week, his ribs, but we'll see. They think he's got a good practice. Kickers Tucker and Shane Graham. Either way you go there, it's about an even toss-up there. Baltimore's at Cleveland, so I would certainly favor Graham in the Dome. Bengals with Tennessee, and then the Packers are at Detroit for Chad. Packers D is not what it could be. It's pretty weak, pretty sad, to be honest with you. So, anyhow, basically give you my picks again. Of course, I will take myself because I'm the Pete Rose sort, and I'll pick myself to win every time. I'll take Brad over Chris this week. I will take Jonesy over Fish. I'll take Tony over Chad, and I'll take Wade Whitaker over Rickman. So that pretty much wraps up GFFL for week 3, or week 2 or 3, whatever week we're in. Anyhow, if you like what you see, let me know. I'm going to post this link on the old website. Take a look. Let me know what you see. Have you seen me? See me? I'm over here. So, weather here in Wisconsin starting to chill down and get down to football playing weather. So, hope everybody's healthy, wealthy, and wise, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.